Hi, friends. This is Terry Burns, and I just wanted to give a quick update to those of you who have been following along with me. Some of you have been taking class with me on the Hieroglyphic Monad for the last several months, and we are in the real meat of it now. We've passed Theorem 20. We've passed that theorem that I think is so essential to connections with the Enochian corpus, because you can make all kinds of connections between Theorem 20 and the Great Table of Earth. And I'll be doing a video of that sometime in the next month. There's a lot of connections we can make now between the Hieroglyphic Monad and the later work of John Dee and Edward Kelley. For those of you that are interested in the spirit diaries, great mystical record of what Dee and Kelley did in the 1580s. Unfortunately, though, for making videos, but not for having fun, we're now into the holiday season too. And also for those of us in education, and I've gone back to teaching this semester, we're getting up towards exam time, the end of the semester, and lots of paper grading. That having been said, I'm going to need to be taking a break for a couple weeks here to get some other things done. So since we've got as far as 20, but there's still several long theorems to go. And since I'm going to be launching next year a series on Dee and Kelley's Enochian work, I wanted to give you a little bit of an idea of what is next. And since I seem to like to share screens a lot more than most YouTubers, being old school or something like that, I made a little presentation about this. Anyway, some supplementary material on Theorem 20 will be coming out in 2 or 3 weeks. It won't be coming out until probably the second week in December. Alan Moore and I wrote about this quite a bit more than 10 years ago. And there are some ideas in an article that I've put in below called John Dee and Edward Kelley's Great Table Part 2, The Angelic Governors and the Black Cross, where you particularly see this idea that I talked about near the end of Theorem 20 of so within, so without. Yes, we have as above, so below, but we've definitely got, when we get to the Great Table of Earth, just like in the Hieroglyphic Monad, as within, so without. We'll see connections to a lot of other ideas that we've brought up, like Gaia as the earth of marriage, like elementates or primary elements, breaking up things into earth of air, earth of earth, and so on. Anyway, that's the next video that I'm going to do, and should be of particular interest to those of you interested in Enochian. If you're not interested in Enochian and you're just interested in the monad, probably not of that much interest, but we will get to Theorem 21 right after that. And in Theorem 21, there are some ideas that we'll pull in from 20 about how Dee is kind of bringing back the fifth element, the ether. And I've already mentioned how that a lot of people today look at the way that people in ancient times used the ether as a way to solve problems that today we would solve with multiple dimensions or multidimensionality in mathematics. So following that, when we see how Dee is shifting his rectilinear cross into things that might not exactly involve a pentagram, but would involve a quinary, we will see how this shifts over and explains some things about certain modern esoteric history, particularly the pentagram as a standalone ritual connected to the hieroglyphic monad. So just a quick overview of some of these things. This will be the first one, John Dee and Edward Kelley's Great Table, as a manifestation of some of the ideas in Dee's hieroglyphic monad. You can figure, while we've been breaking things into 4 parts and pushing them off in 4 directions, you might have already thought, if you use a certain approach to Enochian magic, that you're exploding tables out in 4 dimensions. Gee, is that growing out of the monad? Well, it's scribed material, but it goes through the minds of 2 people who one could easily argue knew the monad very well. And the way that will work, this is the black cross and the great table written with Roman letters instead of those Enochian letters. We'll see connections between this black cross, which is also known to those of you who do Enochian magic as a tablet of union, connecting from here to the outside through that 4th dimensional direction that you can't see in 3D. I've also made some kind of teasing comments about double cubical altars, and some of you who might be in initiatory societies that use them. Now I know you get an explanation of why that is, that involves the 10 outside faces corresponding to the 10 Sephiroth with Malkuth at the bottom, Kether at the top. And that's a really beautiful explanation. But remember that the double cube itself is actually a two-dimensional projection of it's one of many two-dimensional projections of a hypercube, so that you're not seeing most of the cubes because of the particular angle you're looking in at. You're not getting that cube within a cube frame that you usually get. And the idea that the double cubical altar may have connected to a hypercube, well, that's nothing that I would have wanted to argue about the 1890s, except the concept sure was there. However, when you get to Crowley's book 4, you get diagrams of this, and we know that Crowley was very into fourth dimensional geometry. Some of you may know the way he gives you a stops in the middle of one of his novels, Moonchild, and gives you this lesson on what it would look like to see something four-dimensional in 3D. And so, sure enough, one of the ways that Crowley described an altar, or an Enochian altar, in book 4 is a double cubical altar, where instead of the tablets exploded out the way you'd usually do it, they're the sides of the bottom part of the altar, and the things that you might associate with the spirit point of a pentagram are at the top. So that's one of the things we'll look there in Theorem 21. We'll flip the monad again. We'll get explanations of these particular graphics. If you don't have the translation Dr. Turner and I did, I'll cut and paste and put in the comments below the text that goes along with these diagrams and tells you where to put them in the text. Yes, we're defying these instructions to the printer, but that's kind of the best I can do here over the internet. And then the one after that, looking at the kind of mystical history of the pentagram, not as a shape, because as a shape it's been around for millennia. I mean, you can trace it with Venus in the night sky and so on, but as a particular set ritual, and as something that you attribute the 5 elements to particular points of, it only goes back really to the original order of the Golden Dawn. So where is it they're getting it from? I would submit one of the sources is certainly the Hieroglyphic Monad and the things that Dee will be doing with the rectilinear cross and making this little dot the crowning point of spirit. So that's what I'm going to be doing when my little break here ends. I hope to see you back then, and I really appreciated all of you sticking to it and joining me in this course. So see you again soon. Bye-bye.